The greatest threat to the United States of America is not what people think. It's not a foreign enemy across the sea. It's not a terrorist sneaking across the border. It's not some radical group trying to destroy us from the outside or even the inside. Now, I don't want anyone to misconstrue anything that I just said because all those things that I just mentioned are, in fact, serious threats and they should be taken care of immediately. But those are not the greatest threat. Those are just symptoms of the greatest threat. In my opinion, the greatest threat to the United States of America, to our republic, is those that fund and support our enemies. Those who ignore those shouting death to America and who ignore those that openly plot against us. It's those great elite leaders, those that are in positions of power inside of our own borders, that call for us to have tolerance, acceptance, and empathy for the very people that push strange and wicked ideologies such as wokeness and sexual confusion, that poison our children with drugs and put fear in the hearts of many women. The greatest threat is the party of no common sense, no reason, no love for the people they claim they represent. The party of no soul. The greatest threat to the United States of America is the Democratic Party. They will destroy this country from the inside out. And little by little, the country that I loved, that my parents love, that my children love, that you love, will be no more. The Democratic Party should be renamed The Enemies Within.
Forward the statistics that zero illegals released into the U.S. for 10 months straight have not crossed, okay? That nearly 3 million aliens have left the United States, that we have the lowest murder rate in 125 years, that fentanyl trafficking is down 56% at the border, and daily encounters have gone down 96%. Hang on one second. We need a strong border, especially now with our current global situation. And I believe that you may say you don't want border control and you're against ICE, but I actually don't believe you in your daily lives. How many people in the audience here had to go through security to get here? Raise your hand. Just be honest. Otherwise, you go to jail, I guess, for illegal trespassing, right? This is an authorized audience. They had to go through security to get through the border, to get right here, to just hear us talk. We need strong borders more than ever right now. We are being infiltrated.
But listen, can I give you
on the border when Renee Good and Alex Peretti were murdered, and death is not a mistake. That was a murder. No,
that was a murder.
Now let me finish.
As were those killed by illegal immigrants.
Let's not be dismissive about the fact.
I'm not dismissive. I just said all their lives matter.
All right, we need to talk about what happened on The View, because that exchange perfectly shows how conversations about border security get derailed in real time. One of the hosts brought up something very straightforward. The United States needs strong borders, and you guys heard that from Elizabeth Hazelbeck. And that shouldn't be controversial. Every nation on earth protects its borders. But instead of actually responding to that point, Sonny Hostin immediately pivoted to something completely unrelated. And it had nothing to do with what was being discussed. And that right there is a textbook example of deflection. When someone avoids addressing a real argument and redirects the conversation somewhere else, what we saw in that moment wasn't debate. It was avoidance. And if Americans actually sit down, take the emotion out of it, and just observe what's happening around them, a lot of these political conversations start making a lot more sense. Now, I don't keep up with The View like that. So I don't even know, for the simple fact, who Elizabeth Hazelbeck was until I found out. Watching this clip and watching a little bit of other clips that has been going viral lately. But what she said was simple, Elizabeth Hazelbeck, that America needs to maintain control of its borders. And that's a basic national function. And instead of responding to that argument directly, Sonny Hostin jumped into something completely unrelated, and that's what made the moment stand out. When someone brings up a specific issue, border enforcement, and the response is to change the subject entirely, it tells you the discussion isn't being handled honestly, and the conversation moved away from the real point instead of addressing it head on. And that pattern shows up all the time when immigration policy is discussed. And instead of focusing on whether the law should be enforced, the conversation gets redirected somewhere else. And another part of this conversation that people need to pay attention to is the situation involving TSA and the Department of Homeland Security, because Americans are dealing with massive airport lines, travel delays, and constant inconvenience just to move around the country. And people are waiting forever just to get through security. And not only are they waiting forever to get through security, but they're missing flights and dealing with chaos that wasn't nearly as common before. But when you look at what's happening politically, it starts to look like some leaders would rather keep Americans stuck in those situations than aggressively address illegal immigration. In other words, the inconvenience of citizens seems to matter less than the comfort of people who enters the country of the United States illegally. And we know who party is fighting for illegal immigration so hard. The Democrats. And that's a serious priority problem, because why do they want to keep the government shut down where TSA workers and the Department of Homeland Security cannot be funded any longer? Because that's the reason that the Democrat Party is keeping this government shutdown going on, because they don't want to fund ICE no more. ICE is under the umbrella under the Department of Homeland Security, right? The Department of Homeland Security covers TSA, covers ICE. So it's a big department that has tentacles of different departments within it. So when a government appears more concerned, in this case, the Democratic Party, with protecting people who broke the law than the people who follow it, the public starts asking why. And this is really come down to, it really comes down to priorities, because government has a basic responsibility: protect its citizens and maintain order.
Yeah, you guys, so TSA wait times here at Hobby Airport still sitting at about 3 hours this morning. You guys, just take a look at the line. It has looked like this basically all morning, and it is stretching from here where we are past the ticketing area, downstairs to the baggage claim, and literally out the door of the airport. And it seems like this line just seems to be getting longer as the morning goes on. So all of this comes after the partial government shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security as it continues. High demand and fewer open checkpoints because of TSA staffing shortages are what's causing these massive wait times.
And don't take my word for it in regards to the Democrat Party keeping the government shut down because they don't want to simply fund ICE under the Department of Homeland Security. Check out what Hakeem Jeffries had to say in regards to the matter. With no further ado, check it out.
Completely and totally out of control group of people. It's the reason why we are in a DHS shutdown right now, because Republicans have refused to agree to the type of bold, transformative, meaningful, and dramatic reforms we are demanding in order for the Department of Homeland Security funding bill to move forward. And I won't go through all of the demands, much of which we've talked about repeatedly in the public, but one of those demands is keep ICE out of sensitive locations. And we've defined that as schools, houses of worship, hospitals, and polling sites. We want an explicit prohibition that ICE can go nowhere near any polling sites in the United States of America. It's one of our demands. We're not going to bend on it.
Why would you not want ICE in polling sites? And why is he emphasizing polling sites so much more than schools and any other sensitive places, right? Sensitive places are sensitive places in his definition. But the simple fact is those sensitive places wouldn't have to be accessed. If you see in the difference between red state and blue states, is only the blue states and such as the Democratic states that are not cooperating or help when it comes to the functioning and making sure that they allow their law enforcement to work with, and the blue states cooperate with ICE, so they don't have to go willy-nilly playing hide and go seek any longer. Because if they open up their jails, number one, then ICE don't have to go around trying to find these people, and it would be more easier, and they won't have to sit there and disrupt or cause chaos within the environment just to track down or basically capture an illegal because they're running willy-nilly. But it's hard when you have sanctuary cities, aka Democratic states, putting up safeguards where they are basically punishing their own law enforcement if they even cooperate with ICE. So my thing is, of course, you're going to get chaos, and the Democratic Party is the party of chaos, because the more chaos they create, the more narratives they could create to then deflect, like I said in the beginning, the same way Sonny Houston and a lot of these mainstream liberal and Democratic hypocrites do, which is deflect and continue to blame the next person and kick the can down the aisle and blame the Republicans this, Republican that. and Trump derangement syndrome on top of it. I also like to call it truth derangement syndrome because they don't want to follow the truth. The truth is, these sensitive places don't have to be accessed if you are working, in this case, the Democratic states, like I said, cooperating with ICE, then they'll be more peaceful and things will run more smoother. Look what Minnesota did when Governor Tim Walz finally cooperated with ICE. All the chaos went down, as you see from Tom Homan when he took over and went over there and operated it. Look at the red states. Look at Florida. Look at Texas. You don't see those problems happening within the red states, and you don't see no chaos or nothing, no sensitive areas, quote unquote, according to Hakeem Jeffries, have to be accessed because they're allowing law enforcement in their states and those governors and local officials are working, from the governors to the mayors in the red states are working with ICE, so everything is smooth. They are making it difficult than it have to be. And the only time people like to make things difficult is because they have a different agenda, right? And it only makes sense. Not to mention, this is spitting an American citizen's people face, an American citizen and legal immigrants and just citizens, period, faces, because what's wrong with having security such as ICE at polling sites? I will want them there. I will feel more secure. I will be happy. I know that they're making sure that legal people and upholding the integrity of our elections for the very thing that generations have fought for it. And to be more specific, my color, the black culture, black people who have eventually had the right to vote, women who eventually had the right to vote with women rights. So with how far we came as a country, can we at least uphold the election integrity? Let me know if I'm tripping, family, down in the comments below. We just having a conversation. But the American people fund the entire system through taxes. That money pays for the services, infrastructure, and institutions that keep the country running. When illegal immigration expands, those systems get strained. Schools, hospitals, transportation systems, social services all feel the pressure. And yet at the same time, many political leaders like Hakeem Jeffries act like enforcing immigration law is somehow controversial. From the perspective of everyday Americans, that makes no sense. If someone breaks immigration law by entering the country illegally, the expectation is that the law will be enforced at polling sites, at schools. However, and that's the standard people expect in every other area of life. And the issue is ultimately about sovereignty. Sovereignty means a nation has control over its own territory and its own future. Two things define that control: a nation's currency and its borders. And currency represents economic control, while borders represent territorial control. And if borders are not enforced, the very concept of national sovereignty begins to weaken. But don't take my word for it. That's why, thank God, we have the adults back in office, because we wouldn't have had these sleep cells that you guys are about to see coming here, or you wouldn't have the Iranian regime that, thank God, Donald Trump had to make sure they don't have a nuclear bomb to sit there and try to basically blow up and destroy the United States of America, because they are our adversaries. And Barack Hussein Obama, actually just gave straight cash on a jet to the Iranian regime for peace. And that's American taxpayer dollars. So you think you can buy someone to not go against you? If anything, you're propping them up to sit there and build them up so they continue to make things like a nuclear bomb that Trump just stopped to go against and overthrow a country, a nation such as the United States of America. That was the most treasonous thing that Barack Obama did, and Donald Trump is cleaning it up. And now we got sleeper cells within the country from the open borders of the Biden administration.
Meantime, an alarming report of threats outside Iran. ABC News reports Iran may be activating sleeper cells. Quote, the U.S. has intercepted encrypted communications believed to have originated in Iran that may serve as an operational trigger for sleeper assets outside the country. If true, further illustrating Secretary of State Marco Rubio's point, we are fighting a terrorist government.
The United States is currently engaged in an operation targeting the world's leading hostage taker, the world's leading sponsor of terrorism. They are trying to hold the world hostage. They are attacking their neighbors. They are attacking neighboring countries, their energy infrastructure, their civilian population. They're attacking embassies. This is a terrorist government. This is a terroristic regime. And we are seeing them conduct terrorism using nation-state elements, using weapons like missiles and one-way attack drones. And the objective of this mission is to destroy their ability to continue to do that.
But Iran's...
There you have it, family. There you have it. And if you, like I said, if borders are not enforced, the very concept of national sovereignty begins to weaken. And this isn't just happening in the United States, across the Western world. There are debates happening about border enforcement and national identity. And the question is whether countries will continue functioning as sovereign nations or move towards something more centralized and global. And that's the larger backdrop behind many of these policy fights. And another concern that has been raised in national security discussions is the possibility of these sleeper cells that you guys just heard entering the country through weak border enforcement. A sleeper cell refers to individuals who blend into society, live normal lives until they are activated to carry out attacks. Doesn't that sound like illegal immigrants? I mean, look at Lake and Riley. Is it really a difference when it comes to illegals sitting there living a normal life until they're activated to attack Americans? For the simple fact of it, because of their malice behavior and malicious behavior and just the sickness of the most crime written individuals of the world, as other countries, as our borders were open, were just letting out their criminals or the most criminals over here to this country, while their country was getting cleaned up from criminals and from being not destroyed from criminals any longer because they're over here destroying America and they shouldn't have been in the country in the first place. There are not obvious threats when it comes to these sleeper cells. Just like I said, to me, I don't think illegal immigrants is any different. They are designed specifically to look ordinary. Intelligence professionals have warned that when large numbers of people cross the border without proper screening, it becomes extremely difficult to track everyone who enters. And some individuals may already be on the watch list, but others may not because they are newly recruited or unknown to the intelligence agencies. And that possibility alone is why border security is considered a national security issue and not just an immigration policy debate. Right? So now, I want to take it a step further. Looking at all of this, you can see not only is it a threat to Americans just in our everyday life, and we got to keep our heads on the swivel now, as Donald Trump, thank God, is cleaning all this mess up. But then also we have to keep enforcing the security of our airports because now we have shortages.
The TSA dam may have finally burst over the weekend, and it might not get better as people travel south after a brutal winter in the Northeast. There's still no movement to end the Homeland Security shutdown over ICE. Democrats blame the GOP.
They've made an affirmative decision that they would rather shut down FEMA, shut down the Coast Guard, and shut down TSA as opposed to getting ICE under control.
Yet another missed paycheck by TSA applies pressure on lawmakers to get a deal. Busier travel and longer lines could also serve as an inflection point. There is worry about the core mission of DHS.
This is making us weaker with respect to TSA and our airlines, the Coast Guard, which is critically important, FEMA. And by the way, we're using the money we put in the big, beautiful bill that's sitting there for Border Patrol and for ICE, but it undermines our homeland security if we don't have full funding.
Democrats called for the ouster of former DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, but her removal and the installation of Mark Wayne Mullen failed to move the needle for Democrats. Pennsylvania's John Fetterman supports Mullen, but most Democrats oppose him.
Until we have a Homeland Security Secretary and a White House that are committed to ending this illegality, the terrorizing of American communities by the Department of Homeland Security, I'm not going to support anybody who's up for that mission.
Sounds like to me they're basically saying we want somebody who's basically a rhino that's, head of Department of Homeland Security that would sit there and cater to the Democrats, not even to mention that didn't they have 3 government shutdowns already? They already spit in the average everyday American face when it comes to TSA workers, air traffic controllers. They know we got a shortage on this stuff. You think they care? You think they care about the safety of our airports and airplanes? They cut off welfare for those who needed it. So to me, the Democrat reminds me of a party of slavery. Because to how much they give to, basically all I hear is them saying that they own you. Because if you really think about it, back in slavery time, and I hate to mention slavery, but when you look at it, everything is given to you is basically, okay, I give you housing, Because we all know that Democrat Party is the welfare party. They want to give you all these handouts, but then they can take it away or take it away if they want to control you. So in hand, it correlates to slavery because if you really think about it, we enslave you to the simple fact is we tax you to death where you have no check, where you have to come to us and get on your knees and basically worship us to get something from us because we know that you need something, suck you dry from being able to work and pave your own path because you have to come to us crawling for what you need, such as the basic necessities of life, such as such as shelter, food, and things that are basic essentials, right? Because my thing is, all I hear is me, give. Democrats give welfare. Democrats give food stamps. Democrats give affordable housing. All of these things, and they can take it from you within a stop of a dime when they don't get their way. So that tells you right there, they don't care about you. They don't care if you suffer. They don't care about anything if they can't control you to get their way. And if you don't let them get their way and you don't agree with them, then you are the enemy and you will get nothing. And that sounds like to me, as long as they have it to their liking, they fine. But if it's not to their liking, they will cry, scream, go out to communities, pay paid protesters to do whatever they need to do. And that's the problem. I don't like with Republicans because they get complacent. These Democrats don't get complacent. They out there continue to indoctrinate. They out there continuing to spew things to get the motives and get their motives pushed out and their beliefs and ideologies to the fullest extent, no matter what. And they're constantly working. They're out there to make the most ignorant believe that they're on the right side of history, but really they're on the wrong side, and they want you to believe that they're right, but they're banking on your ignorance to basically vote for destruction. You seen the first clip in this video that the enemies of this country is within, and that's the Democrat Party. And I totally agree on the way the Democrat Party and the state of the Democrat Party this day and age. And I do all this because it affects our children. It affects the next generation. And I'm hoping that I can at least get you to critically think to say, back then, as I was growing up in school, to say who, why, what, and where. And think for yourself as we have in this conversation. So politically, this situation raises serious questions about priorities in Washington's. Critics argue that some leaders oppose stronger border enforcement because they believe democratic changes will benefit them politically over time. Whether someone agrees with that theory or not, it has been a widespread belief among many voters. When people feel that policy decisions are being made for political advantage rather than national stability, trust in government erodes. And once that trust starts disappearing, it becomes very difficult to restore. And that's why immigration policy has become such a powerful political issue over the last several election cycles. Supporters of looser immigration policies often argue that enforcement alone won't solve the problem and that the system itself needs reform. That may be true, but it doesn't remove the basic question. Should the law be enforced in the meantime? And when certain places are labeled as sensitive locations where immigration enforcement is restricted, the argument is that it creates obvious loopholes. And if someone knows enforcement won't happen in certain areas, those areas become natural safe zones like sanctuary cities, blue states where crime run rampant and they juice the numbers to make it like it ain't. And that's a concern many Americans have when they hear proposals to limit where immigration authorities can operate. At the end of the day, what many Americans are asking for is not complicated. They want consistency. They want laws to be enforced the same way they are in every other situation. And they want the government to prioritize the safety and stability of the people who live here. When discussions about borders get dismissed or redirected instead of addressed directly, it increases public frustration. And that's why moments like the exchange on The View resonate with people and they feel like they're watching a conversation where the real issue is being avoided. And I want to hear what you think about this. What was your reaction to the moment on The View? And what are your thoughts on the border? What is your thoughts on a broader conversation around border enforcement and national security? Let me know your guys' thoughts. Make sure you like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear this discussion. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the post notifications so you don't miss future uploads. I'll see you in the next one, family. Peace.